From Coin 6, your local election headquarters, this is an Eye on Northwest Politics special.
Welcome back to the Eye on Northwest Politics midterm election special. Now, usually congressional races in Oregon and Southwest Washington don't necessarily get a lot of national attention. That is not the case this time around. In the last few weeks, President Joe Biden and former presidential candidate and Senator Bernie Sanders have visited Portland to campaign for Democratic gubernatorial candidate Tina Kotek. The Republican governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, recently joined a rally for Republican gubernatorial candidate Christine Drazan. And former Democratic presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard, who has now left the Democratic Party, just traveled to the Northwest to show support for Joe Kent, the Republican and Trump-endorsed candidate for Washington State's 3rd Congressional District. Well, let's go back to our political analyst and managing editor of Pamplin Media Group, Dana Haynes. And Dana, why are these races garnering so much national attention?
Well, 2 reasons. One is, in the past, I'm going to try and find a polite way to say this, they were boring. I mean, the Democrats controlled the seats they controlled in our congressional delegation. The Republicans controlled the seat they controlled. There was no question about it. They were cakewalks. And that's just no longer true this time. Now, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd district, Suzanne Bonamici, Cliff Bentz, Earl Blumenauer, those are still a walk. But that 4th, the 5th, the 6th, those are up. They really could. Do we have a graphic on how the breakdown of the U.S. House? There are 3 races that are very, very tight in Oregon. And as you can see from that graphic, there's about 5 seats that have to change in order to change the gavel at the House. So all of a sudden, Oregon, which was completely ignored by D.C. in my entire career, we're getting the attention for the first time ever.
Yeah, and of course we should mention we don't see the Senate breakdown, but it's 50-50.
Yeah.
Right. So let's break down some of these congressional races. The race getting the most attention, this is the battle for Washington's 3rd U.S. congressional district. Now, this race is between Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez and Republican Joe Kent. Gluesenkamp-Perez calls herself a moderate Democrat. She's a small business owner. She lives in rural Skamania County. Now, Kent is a Trump-endorsed Republican. He's even had fundraisers at Mar-a-Lago. He's a former Green Beret and Special Forces. Kent says he wants to bring manufacturing back to the United States and secure the southern border. That's a big talking point for him. He's against economic and military support of Ukraine to defend itself against Russia. And Kent also continues to question the outcome of the 2020 presidential election. Gluesenkamp-Perez owns an auto repair shop in Portland. She's also a gun owner, and she's against an assault weapons ban. But Gluesenkamp-Perez supports raising the age to buy an assault weapon to the age of 21. She also favors background checks and red flag laws. Both candidates spar over abortion. Gluesenkamp-Perez is pro-abortion rights. Kent says he wants to end abortion in America altogether. Now, Dana, what do you make of this race in Southwest Washington? I know it's gotten a lot of national attention. Just last week, the New York Times wrote an article about this particular race. Obviously, since Joe Kent has been at Mar-a-Lago, Trump has endorsed him for this race. This is a real battle between opposites.
Oh, it really, really is. And unfortunately, in the primary, Gluesenkamp-Perez got every Democratic vote she was going to get. The other Democrat got, forgive me, 2.5% of the vote or something like that. So she can't garner more Democrats. She really needs to garner the people who voted for Jamie Herrera Butler back in the day, the woman who had this seat for, gosh, I forget, 6 terms, I want to say. She needs to take those seats from the Republicans who don't like the MAGA Republicans. So that's what the race is going to come down to, is where is the GOP faithful going to fall? And it is a barn burner, as you say.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about the primary was that Jamie Herrera Butler, who was defeated, she was one of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach Donald Trump. And many people felt that that was the difference in this race and why Joe Kent was able to make such inroads.
That's exactly right. So we sort of see this race, a Democrat running against a Republican, but in many ways this is the old guard Republicans running against the MAGA Republicans, and how the old guard Republicans are going to fall will tell us how the Washington 3rd falls.
Yes, and at this point, we're not quite sure who's ahead in this race. It's really close right now between Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez and Joe Kent.
Joe Kemp would be, I'm going to use my words judiciously, a very interesting delegate to Congress from the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at some of the congressional races in Oregon, and we start with District 5. This one is between Republican Lori Chavez DeRemer and Democrat Jamie McLeod Skinner. McLeod Skinner works as an emergency preparedness coordinator for the state. McLeod Skinner has worked in local government as a planner, city manager, and city council member. Chavez DeRemer is the former mayor of Happy Valley. She's previously served on the town city council as well. She is the marketing director for a network of medical clinics that she co-founded with her husband. They do differ on issues like gun control and abortion rights. DeRemer tweeted support in May for a federal heartbeat bill that would restrict abortions after 6 weeks with exceptions. Now she says she opposes federal restrictions.
Here's what I would support. We know that a majority of Americans and Oregonians want access to abortion up until the first trimester. We understand that. And that's protected here in Oregon. Also for rape, incest, and the life of the mother, of course.
It is a federal issue, and anyone telling you anything else is not telling you the truth. So I believe fundamentally government needs to know when to help out and when to get out of the way. It's not the right of politicians to tell us what to do with our bodies or when to start our families.
Well, let's take a look at Oregon's 5th district. It was redrawn after Oregon added a 6th U.S. district last year after the 2020 census. Well, it incorporates parts of southeast Portland, Clackamas, Marion, and Lynn counties. It includes part of Deschutes County as well. Dana, what do you see out of Oregon's 5th congressional district?
The reason this one is so hard to call is because neither of these candidates is well known. They haven't run major races before. McLeod Skinner is a lawyer. She's been a city councilor, a city manager. She is unknown to many, many voters. Chavez DeRemer was mayor of Happy Valley, but the fact is you could stand at the edge of Happy Valley and throw a ping pong ball and not hit anybody who's ever heard of the mayor of Happy Valley. It's a very low profile kind of race. Consequently, big money has been poured into it. The Republicans have been, nationally, have been pouring huge money into it. And as of the first week in October, October 5, they actually had Chavez DeRemer, the Republican, leading, according to the 538 political analysis website. She's now actually leading. It's so close, she's within the margin of error. But this one is really, really tight, and it all comes down to where the big federal money's flowing.
Yes, and we see that federal money in the ads that are in a number of these congressional races. Has it been surprising to you that the ads have been so pointed? They've been pretty nasty.
I have made a very strong point of turning the audio off whenever anybody's political ad comes on. I'm sorry to tell a television personality this, but I will turn the audio off for all ads that look political. I now have a really good instinct. My muscle memory on that is terrific. Yes, but to be honest with you, it has been really pointed and really strong, and the messages have been coming out of D.C. They're not messages that come out of Clackamas County and Deschutes County, and these are very much D.C.-driven messages, D.C.-driven advertising, for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really struck me in looking at the political ads, because in the past, the majority of our political ads have been, hi, I'm running for office, this is what I'm going to do to help Oregonians. Now the ads seem to be, the other person is bad, and you can't let them win.
Yeah, that's very much the federal spin. And I like the Oregon type of campaign where you say, here's the 5 things I'm going to do, and the other guy says, here's the 5 things I'm going to do, and then you go and vote on it. These D.C.-style, perhaps New York-style ads, they rub a lot of Oregonians wrong. And what it might do is it might suppress the voter turnout for this race, because at some point the voters get to that a pox on both your houses position.
Yeah, nationally though, they wouldn't do this unless they work. These negative ads tend to work.
You're darn right. That's unfortunately exactly true.
Yeah. Let's go to Oregon's new 6th congressional district. This is the one between Republican Mike Erickson and Democrat Andrea Salinas. Both candidates do have experience running for office. Erickson runs a supply chain consulting firm. He ran for Congress in 2006 and 2008, losing to Democrats both times. Now, Salinas has served in the Oregon House since 2017, and before that, she was an aide to U.S. Senator Harry Reid and Congresswoman Darlene Hooley. Erickson's top concerns are the economy, crime, and public safety. Salinas made abortion access a key platform in the primary. Erickson says he does not support a federal abortion ban and would like to see states hold their own power to make that decision. Both candidates recently told us how they would combat inflation.
Continuing to make sure that we open up the petroleum oil reserve to make sure, again, that we are pushing down on those gas prices, and really looking at what role corporations play in these gas price hikes.
If you really want to get inflation under control, we got to get two things. We got to get our supply chain costs down. We got to get the price of oil and gas back to where it was. That's a huge driver. Become energy independent. And then we got to do everything we can to get the national debt under control.
Right now, both candidates live in Lake Oswego, which is just outside the district, but I should point out that they would have been inside the district before the district lines were redrawn and the 6th was added. So, Dana, thoughts on the race in Oregon's new 6th congressional district? How important is this race?
Oh, it's darn important, especially because it's so close. The Democratic control of the House is so narrow, so tiny. And I didn't think it would be this good a race because, to be honest with you, Representative Salinas is Latino, and there's a large Latino population. She has a record she can run on because she's been in the House. She's been a vice chair of healthcare committee, very important committee. This district went for Biden 2 years ago. I thought she would really be quite a ways ahead of this one. One of the big differences of this one is Mike Erickson has put $1 million of his own money into ads. He's really been able to double the ad buys that she's got. He's run for House members of Congress seats you've mentioned. He's run twice for the legislature. I do find it a little bit interesting that he refers to her as a lifelong politician after losing 4 of the races. He's not a lifelong politician because the voters keep saying no to him. But nonetheless, despite that irony, this is a race I really thought would have been Salinas to lose, and right now it's just neck and neck.
Because of the status of the economy right now, people are worried about inflation. They are worried about paying for goods and services, just being, able to afford to live, basically. Do you think that might give Erickson a little bit of advantage being a business person?
Sure, absolutely. I think that will. And people are really concerned about inflation and gas prices. 2 things that a junior member of Congress probably can do absolutely nothing about, but people don't always quite understand that. Inflation is a transnational issue. It's going to come and it's going to go largely regardless of what a junior member of Congress says. But absolutely, his business background, it looks good right now when people are having pocketbook heartache.
Next is major change coming to Portland city government. Voters can change the structure of City Hall. We'll tell you what could be different and why some say, although it's time for a change, they're against the proposal that will be on this November's ballot. We'll be right back.